tell my friends stand by me only if I'm right. I come out of triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many of me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute.
Welcome to the B2M podcast. We're here in Charlottesville, Virginia at Code Base, the Code Building on the downtown mall. 5 brothers who have been friends for over 40 years, who have a combined 13 children, including 12 boys, and been married a combined 100 years. We came together on this podcast to bring public a lot of conversations we've been having over those 40 years, from adolescence into manhood, and discuss some very important topic in terms of parents and adults about life and culture. I'm joined by John J.G. Yates on my right.
What's up, Chief?
My man Talik over here in the super duper fly sweatsuit over here. My man Talik Chills, fresh from Atlanta, with the world's ambassador, Charlottesville, Albemarle County Metropolitan Area's unofficial mayor, Joaquin, and my boy Jay Moo, my man, brother Muhammad
Peace
over
and
here.
blessing, yes.
We got another interesting topic today. We're going to get into talking about relationships as it pertains to love and what type of guidance we gave our children around heartbreak and navigating and managing relationships. And we're glad to be in this building and brought to you by, again, Code Base, a wonderful networking facility for entrepreneurs and business people here in downtown Charlottesville. Come check out the wonderful amenities, man. They're wonderful hosts, so come check it out. But fellas, it's an interesting topic today because we all have sons. They're now into adulthood, and matters of the heart are important in life, right? And how did we help them? Or what types of things did you keep in mind when you were helping them deal with relationships with the opposite sex?
John, you go first.
Yeah, where do we start, right, with that?
And don't start telling your own story on the sly.
Backdate the story. Nah, it all starts with, again, when they're young, teaching them love and respect people, regardless, right? And that's especially carries over to the opposite sex, right? If you like a girl, treat her well, up to when, I got a college student, I got one going to college. Now I tell them, same thing. You treat them with respect even when they don't respect themselves, even if it's a situation, especially when they get older, as far as somebody at a party and drinking or whatever. And just because that person may not even show self-respect, that don't mean that you disrespect them, Man, it's a lot to it, man. We talk about choosing your spouse, choosing a mate, how that can be the biggest decision in your life, and so how to navigate that when you're young. Yeah, it will be the biggest. It can make or break you, right? It can set you back or set you forward, propel you. But yeah, man, it's kind of fun, man, seeing when they're young and they like somebody and having them conversations and, what's grade school appropriate to when you get a little bit older. And then it's still always a challenge in dealing with the influence of music in society as well, right? So what time, what age what is appropriate. But again, showing love, showing respect, doing you, becoming the best version of you, so you can be who you are, so you can be a good mate for that particular lady. What do you guys think?
I was going to ask you what age did you have was the first time you had a conversation was a little third grade breakup, like when Ginger Lage left J. Moo? Or was it
For Ricky Jackson?
Yeah, for Ricky Jackson? Or was it older? Like, can you think back on when was the first time? Or before that, what age was it okay for them to date? Or was it a little breakup or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in high school, it's okay to meet up at the movies, stuff like that. Some kids some kids want to do that in middle school. If it's something with a chaperone and this person having a birthday party or something like that, that can be appropriate, right? But you know, you gotta still vet out the parents if you're not hosting it yourself, right? Because some of the parents never go in the basement and they upstairs partying and drinking, and the kids doing what they do, you know, and don't think the kids is above or beyond, you know.
Foolish.
Yeah.
Exploration.
Normal stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're not really ready for.
So
you know?
what did you have a number in terms of age when they could date? Was it high school, 14?
Yeah. So
14?
so high school, and I tried to encourage them to date, but not. It's a balance between you don't want them falling in love and having a steady girlfriend throughout high school, but then you don't want them dating 20 different girls either, right? So it's a balance between them developing friendships and learning how to go out and treat people with respect and courtesy, and developing that friendship to see if they like them, you know, a little
How'd
bit
you
more.
teach the balance?
I don't know. I'm still struggling with it. But just, you know, they have.
Well, they out like Dre and Isaiah. They out.
Yeah.
Gabriel the only one still in school.
Right. And he doing this thing in private, you know. And I'm like, why you don't talk to me about it? But that's a whole nother story about him being out and you know where he shouldn't have been that night. But yeah, man, it's just a balance of. And it's so funny because I asked Gabriel not too long ago when we was talking about the talk, right? And I said, Gabriel, you remember me and you having a talk? He said, nah, like that, right? I said, what? Because I couldn't pinpoint it. But then he said, you know, a minute later, he said, Dad, we've always talked. We've always. So it wasn't.
There was no the talk.
There wasn't the talk.
Because we always talk.
Exactly. Because we've always talked about, again, age appropriate. What's appropriate at, you know, elementary, the middle, the high, you know.
I got a coworker, man. This is interesting because this just happened. We were in a Zoom meeting, and I hadn't seen, you know, with COVID, some people I haven't seen in a long time, and I was interacting with this colleague that I hadn't seen for a minute. How you doing? Oh, my daughter in the 8th grade now. She's dating, and I was like, whoa, like 8th grade. You know, I had to find out about this, right? So I was like, she's a single mom with a father that's in the child's life.
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying? It's not like he's absent. But 8th grade, and she has a boyfriend that they started off meeting at the park. Now she lets him come over to the house for an hour and a half. And she was saying one time she went to the bathroom and left the room, and she came back, and the boy's arm was around the girl, right? And so she called her daughter in and said, hey, none of that. You can't do that. Right? So the girl came back and said, hey, you can't do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you are not going to be around all the time, right? And so, but to me, that whole, when you ask when, like 8th grade, you know, and if she finds her way to this podcast, my bad for telling you a story. And I was like, but 8th grade, that seems a bit young to me for a relationship of that nature. But I also can't say I know how to address it beyond just saying nope, can't happen, because you can say nope, can't happen, but that doesn't impact how they feel about one another, and then they might go into a shell. But to me, I didn't set an age. I sort of was governing it based on what I was seeing. And I can't say in middle school I heard a lot of interest like that it was something was popping off, you know, to that level. So I didn't have to address it like that in terms of putting a deadline or anything like that. And it sort of naturally around 10th grade or something, you know, me started, you know, he was escorting a young lady to a debutante thing, and they started going, you know, started being friends and interacting like that. But I didn't really feel a need to get heavily involved in it until I found out he was active, you know, that he had an experience. And then it really wasn't until, you know, and then he ended up having a girlfriend in high school that he almost had like into college in his relationship. So my thing was at that time was trying to help him see stuff. Like, I was like, why y'all always meeting over here? I was on that type of time, like what's going on that y'all always at this crib or whatever like that. And he was explaining to me some factors related to that, but
cool.
I kind of stayed out of it. You know what I'm saying? Except I was watching to see if there were any behavior that was changing.
Do you acknowledge, either one of us, anybody, that it might be a double standard if we had daughters?
1,000%.
If I had a daughter, she would
1,000%.
not be allowed to go outside. Period.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely double standard.
Well, I know J Move got the one daughter between
Right.
all of us.
Yeah.
So.
And unfortunately, I couldn't be there like I wanted to kind of guide her. But there was a point in it. I think it was around middle school for her when I was just actually had started to reconnect with her, and she shared with me, and I was just trying, I knew I couldn't be all, bizarro,
Yeah.
having not been in touch for a few years or whatever. So I tried to be understanding, and try to kind of guide her with regard to that of being not unreasonable, you know what I mean, but again,
Recognizing
just
she didn't grow up.
listening.
Like she hadn't
Yeah, 'cause
been
I think she
present
had
for a
been
while.
About 13. Yeah, I think she was 13, and just kind of listening there to be, to be there as a supportive father to kind of guide her with regards, to having self-respect, which I'm sure her mom did a great job of instilling that in her and all. But I think it would be somewhat a double standard though, because then I think back on Michael, and it was again, I think it's for all of middle school that they, that's when they kind of start to think that they can have relationships.
But real
in that
quick
sense
on the
of
double
boys and
standard thing, do
girlfriend
you
piece.
think the double standard is partly rooted in some facts in terms of some realities? Like what I mean is, men, we have a nature as men, women have a nature as women, right? And so women in our society aren't really respected, aren't honored in a way that, we would want our daughters to be if we have daughters, or that you have a daughter, to the point that it's dangerous. There's a lot of sexual predators, there's a lot of objectifying of women
Right.
that goes on that boys just don't have to deal with. Like, in making it short, some people say, when you got a son, you got to worry about one penis. When you got a daughter, you got to worry about all the penises.
Yeah.
Now that's just math. I don't know if it's a
Right.
double standard or just a mathematical fact. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to throw that out there, but
And it's
might
a
catch some
time.
heat on
Right.
Yeah, it's a time period we grew up chasing hard, and now the ladies are chasing the guys. And now,
Right.
now, with with my oldest son, you got the digital jump, the digital dating, and I don't know how that works. I'm out the loop with that, but it's a whole different world. It's a different vibe.
What you talking about? You going down in the DM?
Yeah,
As Yo
yeah.
Gotti said.
The dating sites, the hookup culture.
How about this? 1 out of 2 marriages these days start with an online match.
Yeah.
1 out of 2?
It's
50% now?
Yes.
Dang. I
Wow.
missed that. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I remember my son was in he was pre-daycare, 3 years old, and this little girl at the daycare, she had her eyes on my son and all that little stuff.
Man, early.
And I remember a Friday, we was about to pick him up and stuff. The little girl came up to him, and he was getting his little bag and stuff, and she said, "Bye, chicken head." And we
chicken head.
teased him forever, just little innocent relationship, I mean, it was nothing. I mean, they 3 years old,
Right.
little cute little stuff, but but at the same time, I remember, I don't know, like 5 years old, 5, 6 years old, a neighbor wanted to come over. She was a female over the house, and she went over there. I'm telling you, 5 minutes. Next thing you know, she kissed my son, and he came and told, and she would sit back down at her house, just with the quickness, it was like, oh no, ain't nobody else coming in here, and so those are the type of things. But like Corey said, man, we never really had no age limit when he could date and stuff like that. So I mean, he had a ton of relationships, man, but I know when he was in college, he had a little steady relationship and stuff, and it had, just like any relationship, it takes its challenges and stuff, and Eventually they broke it off and stuff like that. So
I'm gonna fact check myself. So it's 25 to 40%, depending on the year. Like from 2017, that has started online. 50% of relationships, not including marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to fact check
Same
myself.
thing.
Yeah, it's a lot, right?
Exactly. And I may be wrong because some of those are specifically suited to find a mate for marriage, but others is straight a hookup culture.
Yeah.
So depending on what site you want.
It's interesting.
I'm not privy to that, brother.
Me neither. I'm listening to my son.
I haven't done any research or anything like that, but from the way it looks, though, it seems that, and I don't know if anybody else has heard this, but it seems like men are more interested in marrying than women are. At least it seems. Have you all seen?
You got a good point there. I know my
get
son.
that kind of
Men more interested in marrying than women.
Yes.
Like just think about our sons
Back
right
in
now.
our day. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I
You
think
talking
my,
about like right now, our sons right now?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I definitely know my oldest son is interested in being married.
I think my
Yeah.
son is interested in a serious
They
relationship.
can't find nobody, and it's not about looks. It's
Yeah.
about the whole package. It's tough.
Yeah, I know. For me and my family, I was a little more go hard about it. I
What
was
do you
like,
mean, go
nah,
hard?
I don't want to hear nothing about no boyfriend girlfriend mess. That ain't going down up in here.
That's where the drama comes.
We not doing none of that. We ain't doing no boyfriend girlfriend
And what age,
stuff
what
how
age was
old?
this?
until they was able to
19.
drive. And that's what I told them. I was like, you can go out when you can take out.
Oh, you said this from the onset?
Yeah, from the onset. All right, so this is the funny part. That's how I was, and when Darius was like 15, 16, he was like, I don't know, I got 1932 parents, because he want to do what he want to do. And I'm like, nah, man, when you can take out, you can go out. I'm not driving y'all to the movies. I'm not doing none of that. And you ain't going either,
Right.
Now, I remember that time you and John came to the house and Darius was like 7. Y'all remember this?
Yes.
And I think John asked him, you was like, hey, Darius, you got
My
a
wife was there
girlfriend?
too.
Yeah, you got a girlfriend? And he looked around and he shut the door. He said, I got a girlfriend, but my daddy don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that?
That's what the uncles got to get in and talk to him.
That was a classic.
Yeah, I got a girlfriend, but my daddy don't know. He already knew.
Right.
At 7, I wasn't trying to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
But he already was doing his thing.
Right.
So
Can't stop it.
yeah, no.
Nah,
It's
that's that win in him.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
For me, I let my boys come to me with it. You know what I mean? Or come to us rather. With those challenges or what they were experiencing. Because my whole thing was like, look, focus on school yourself. Preparing yourself just for you first. Because how could you be? Well, first of all, I was like, look, when it comes to the female, you're going to be responsible. There's a responsibility involved, an emotional responsibility, and so on and so forth. So if you're not even ready, if you don't have yourself prepared and ready, how can you be ready to be or take on the responsibility of her feelings or emotions and that sort of, yes. So they came to me, and I think with Michael, it was just like I said, from school. He was in middle school, like
Okay.
seventh grade, I believe, and I think when he did, and I'm trying to think when I remember how he got to his little girlfriend's house. I'm like, did I sanction that? But if I did, I had to have the conversation of, is it okay with her parents that you come through or come over?
Yeah.
And it's funny because what you said, why they always at your spot, and it seemed like he was always going or invited to be there. And I think from the background though, his I think he did say like her folks were mad religious and ultra religious and everything. So I think that's probably why it was okay with me.
You're mad and ultra religious? No, I'm just saying.
Well, I wasn't ultra, but I was
got
strict
you.
and disciplined to it,
Yeah.
to the extent of knowing human nature and whatnot.
Yeah,
and
right,
so
right.
you just don't leave them unattended and by
Yeah.
themselves to trust. Not that I don't trust y'all, I don't trust nature, the nature within you to be
I don't
attracted
trust nature.
to one another.
God
You know what I
knows,
mean?
You know.
And so that was with Michael, and then Kemu again. I think we shared that in another a previous episode too, with regards to him betraying his buddy and waiting until they that thing dissolved and he pushing up on old girl, and that was the only thing in middle school for him. But then it wasn't again until high school for Caden that I think he had a bandmate, so he was in band, and he he developed a whole friendship piece on their mutual love for band and instruments and all. And it's funny, my wife was more about pushing and the whole thing of relating than I was. And I was like, I mean, let's let it flow or whatever the case, whatever it is. And when you mentioned something about the debutante piece or what, it was something that they, I think they did. I forgot what it was, but I think it was about 10th grade or something like that. That he did take her to that, and we prepared him for that sort of thing. But he didn't really do homecoming or prom or anything like that. You know what I mean? And I think he had frustration with the whole friend zone piece.
There was friend zone.
If you will, yes. I mean, because even despite that little thing that they went to together, he was just kind of frustrated with.
So what'd you tell him
No friend zone allowed.
when he was friend zone? What'd you tell him?
I was like, hey, that's okay, because that's all you prepared for now anyway. You're not ready to take on.
Well, clearly, that ain't what he
My
wanted.
mind
That's
is
why he was
telling me
disappointed.
no.
Right, but then I was like, hey, okay. When it did, it spawned that need for the talk, and then I was like, and I know he's probably laughing at this. I was like, because he's done a lot better than we did with regards to that.
Way better guy.
Yes, way better. And so I was like, look, man, if it comes to that point of where you want to do the deed and all of that, I said, give me a call. Give me a call just to be sure that that's what you're ready to do. And I was, hoping to talk to him all the way. He's like, okay, Papa. He's like,
Dad, I'm going in.
Yeah, right. Right. So he could be prepared. Be prepared and everything.
Like they said, where they do that at?
Right. But I'm very proud that I, at least up to that point in high school, as far as I know.
Yeah.
He had maintained, being celibate and such.
Brother, did I just hear you singing R. Kelly, brother?
I'm glad you said that.
It wasn't about R. Kelly. It was about that was just what was on the shelf that came out.
Yeah.
At that moment.
I love that song.
Yeah,
I love
my
it.
mind is telling me no, but my body's telling me yes.
Hey, Chris Rock had joked about that.
What'd he say?
Hey, yeah, you listen to Michael Jackson, but you cancel R. Kelly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're not going. Hey, none of y'all had y'all kids in Tom Thumb weddings?
What's that?
That's a little kid wedding?
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
do that. That's
A
some
kid
real
wedding.
A
Southern-
kid wedding.
Tom Thumb.
They
what
got
was
two
that?
Yeah.
kids that get married, and it's like a wedding.
Why are we playing that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a thing here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I ain't
That's
never heard of that.
ridiculous. And
That sounds ridiculous. Why do little kids need to be playing married?
What is it,
I think
JG?
that's
Yeah,
part
I
of what
mean,
we talk
be a
about.
little
With
more
were you
detail.
in the Tom Thumb wedding?
Nah,
Is that
I
why you
wasn't.
said that?
Nah, my
what,
man
what,
was in.
what age y'all talking about? Like, I mean, what
Like
year?
little kids,
No,
like
I'm saying what
8, 9
year?
years
No, I'm saying
old.
like, I'm
It's
talking
folks
about like, is
our
this
age.
recently or
80s?
80s?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's IP.
I ain't never heard of that.
Yeah.
I ain't never heard
All right,
of
well, y'all gotta look it up. Then.
Yeah.
Y'all
Well, you
gotta-
said
But
y'all
look,
ain't
but what-
telling
what
the
it
They were
truth.
doing Tom Thumb weddings at First
it.
Baptist.
I'm not saying I don't believe you. I just
Why does it have anything to do with Tom Thumb? I don't even get that. What is
I
Tom
think
Thumb
because
reference?
he was a little person, and that's how
Man, you can't do that no more, man.
Well, I said little person.
Yeah, that's what they
that's the
call him.
proper.
He
Little
was.
person.
I know. I'm just
He
saying.
didn't say
That's
he was a
like
midget.
they call him the dance.
Oh, man.
You see-
He said he was a little person.
yeah, it's yeah.
I don't know. Nah.
I think it's derogatory to call them little people.
Oh, what's the proper term, brother?
I'm
Well,
saying,
that's
what
what
are
they
we
wanna-
big people? I mean,
No,
I'm just
I'm saying
saying
that's
like,
what they-
I
that's
call,
what they
I
choose
call
to be
children little
called.
people because that's how they
Yeah,
act. Sometimes they walk around here acting like little people.
Ah,
Looking like that is.
okay.
That is
But
even
look,
derogatory.
But
'cause
what
like,
it does,
okay.
what it does raise for me though, the question of the Tom Thumb wedding, which was simulated weddings for little kids
Right.
getting randomly matched up by two parents, and they dress up and
Yeah.
go down the aisle and all that. And what it raised for me is part of why I think children get in relationships too young is because the whole society encourages it.
Right.
Like we got everybody thinking they're supposed to be in a relationship. You know what I mean? Even the little cartoons. They was trying to chase Darla on the Little Rascals.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
joking,
yeah,
but
yeah.
all these little cartoons and shows where everybody, Mighty Mouse was trying to get with Minnie Mouse.
Ain't nobody like
I mean,
my
I'm
man
just saying,
Peppy.
it's like
Right.
Peppy
we
Le
talked
Pew.
about how
Everybody
Peppy
like
was a
Peppy Le
fonder,
Pew.
man.
Yeah.
Peppy the Pew, and Georgie Porgy was kissing the girls on the playground, and
Yeah.
I'm saying you get sexualized at a young age and think
Early
you're
and
supposed to
early,
be
I
in a
think, today.
relationship, and
Yeah.
then it all starts. All of our parents are guilty of this. Buying us those Valentine's Day cards, you take them to school and hand them out.
Hey
Yep.
man, that meant something.
That meant something.
That
You
meant
used to
something.
count how many
that
you
was
had.
serious.
That was big stuff.
Yeah,
Right
yeah, right. But it like sort of co-signed on relationships and love at a young age. You know what I'm saying? My question is, what did y'all tell your children about love? Have you ever defined love for them when they were growing up?
Well, I always tried to make sure I was modeling it in the house.
Right.
That was so. I don't know how much conversation we actually had about love.
Right. Yeah.
And we did have conversations about emotions and responsibility. But I always tried to model a love for their mother in front of them. You know, we all heard it. You know, the best thing you can do for your children is love their mother.
Mm-hmm.
We all heard that.
We don't. Hey, it's not talked about enough. But you're right. I'm glad you said that.
You
It's
know,
not, I don't
that's-
hear that today that much.
Yeah, and folks are not doing that. But I think there's nothing more powerful than being able to demonstrate a love for their mother, because when they see anything other than that, those begin to become the seeds of distrust and fear and uneasiness, and kids start to develop a fear and a lack of confidence, because now their world is shaken when they don't see that, I believe. So I always wanted to demonstrate that and have them see me
Now,
and
when
their
you
mother
say that, you talking
demonstrate.
about the affection too?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got you.
The affection, seeing us sit on the couch, watch TV together, eat together, talk together, laugh together, spend time together, enjoy one
Did you
another's
leave the door open
company.
on purpose a little sometimes so they could hear? I'm just crazy. Man, they really love each other.
There you go.
That's absolutely
Yeah,
not.
mom.
No, but like I just always wanted them to see how much I love their mother,
Yeah.
because I knew they would then be looking for the same thing. And they would want to do the same thing. And I think that's a big part of why my oldest son, Darius, is a bit of a challenge in terms of navigating relationship, because he's looking for exactly what he saw his
And he
parents
should, rightfully
demonstrate.
so, yeah.
You know, now my youngest son, Kari, he play video games for a living. He in the house all day. I tell him all the time, I don't know how you gonna get a woman in here.
He gonna have a gamer chick.
Yeah, he'll get him a game. It's
Yeah.
funny because he just was telling me about one of his teammates who's actually married.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, wow. You know, I was just taken
Why you
back.
say, oh, wow?
God, I'm like, I thought
Right.
this dude just
How'd
play
that
video
happen?
games all day.
Right.
Yeah, where you find a But then turns out she play games as well.
Oh,
And
cool.
she was in the gaming world as well. So it's super cool. But I have also just watched as, I think I talked about this one time before, they don't bring the level of urgency to relationships and dating that we did at 16. You know, I think I said this before, every single one of us, renewal date on our driver's license is our birthday. Because as soon as we got that driver's license, we want to get that driver's license, we get a car so we can go pick up some,
Get a girl.
so we go get a girl.
Yeah.
That's what we all was on that.
I
We
think
all were on that.
I'm-
Our kids ain't even thinking
Oh
about
my
none of
gosh,
that.
yeah, they are delaying and getting their license and all kinds of
And
stuff.
us and
brother.
our wrong perspective was just totally different mentality, you know what I mean? And already at a young age learning to not value the relationships, right?
Yeah, and none of our sons are married, right?
No.
Yeah,
no,
none of us.
no. My
You
son
know,
not married.
one thing Darius brought to my attention not too long ago was yeah. And this is probably something we all need to talk about. He brought to my attention, he was like, Dad, you know, it's not fair. He was like, because I just watched the family. And it seemed like everybody got a problem with somebody that they bring into the family. And I'm like, oh wow. And I'm like, oh man, we weren't being fair to the people they were introducing to the family and giving them a fair shake, you know. And I'm like, yo, that was not right. And so that he really brought my attention to that.
Give us some examples. No, just kidding. I'm just
What you
teasing.
mean? Because I mean, you know, sometimes you know you do
Just-
get at an age when you can be
Here's,
like,
here's what I mean
something
by
wrong
that.
with that little boy you just brought in.
Ain't nobody good enough. No matter
Right.
who
Oh, yeah,
somebody bring
yeah,
home,
right.
ain't nobody good
Right,
enough.
right.
And I think that's the case for all of our families. You know, ain't nobody good enough when you bring somebody
Yeah.
and you introducing them to the family. And who knows if we good enough? But that's what I mean by that is, you know, that family looking at us a certain type of way.
She didn't speak to
I
nobody.
think-
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. She ain't speak to nobody. She act like she too good. Don't talk to
Oh
nobody.
my God. Look
Got
at
her-
that shit. Look. Got that expensive watch on.
Exactly.
All that ignorant.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so Darius just pull my card on that, man. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be very conscious moving forward about anybody that bring anybody into our family dynamics to make sure you get them a fair shake.
Leave the people alone, right?
Yeah.
And just to note what you just said, none of our guys are married at this point, right? And none of us, we got one granddaddy on the panel, right?
Mm.
And
Yep.
so, but that's a blessing, though, right? And so
Right.
none of us, we
Gramps.
try
Oh, my
to,
God.
yeah, we don't want multiple baby mothers. I know life is what happens while you're making other plans, but we're trying to raise our kids, you know, the right way, to do
Right.
it right the first time as best we can, right?
Right.
And it's very tough if you haven't seen that model. You know, my great grandparents, 13 kids, our great grandparents married 77 years, right? I knew them for 20 years, first 20, 21 years of my life. I knew them well. However, I couldn't relate to them. And so, like you're saying, how do you model something that let me say this, I can relate to them, but they weren't like, my parents should have been in their 40s. You know, as growing up, they were just on this pedestal. That's grandma and granddad, you know. And I saw that, but I didn't see everyday interaction between my mother and the man, or even my grandmother and the man, because then my grandfather is killed, you know.
Right.
And so you don't see that, and you know what you want, but you haven't seen it, and you haven't modeled. And the beautiful thing too is see how to handle conflict, right, in a productive way. Your kids need to see you hold hands and kiss and be affectionate, appropriately affectionate, right? But they also need to see a little conflict and how you handle it and move on from that. And if that's it, what do you tell someone that if they don't have that model in their house, how do you develop that skill? And your folks love you to death, but they don't have it. So how do you develop that?
Man, you know, that's a good question because honestly, me and my wife didn't have all that conflict and our kids didn't see none of that. We won't beef with.
Well, I'm not suggesting that conflict is bad, but I'm not talking about every conflict don't have to
It
be
just
a
might
yell,
be a difference of opinion or
right, a scream out, down, out. I know you had differences, but how you handle your differences. You know, you don't have to argue to say, hey,
Marquis said they ain't have no differences.
oh,
Yeah, she do what I say and that's it.
oh,
Yeah, that's hey, that's what I was over here thinking of.
His
foot is down.
You got that
He said,
serious control over that
Yeah,
joint. Like,
No, man. No, I mean it was just regular conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't all this.
But did you grow up with that?
Did I grow up with that?
have you ever been pissed
No,
off with your wife?
No,
before?
and in our house, it was fussing and you know,
Right.
lay somebody out and tell them about themselves, and 30 minutes later, we back to hugging and kissing and laughing and giggling.
Yeah.
That was how we kind of learned to do it. And you know, I know sometimes when you bring people into, like when my wife first observed that, when my wife first came around the family and she observed like my aunt and my uncle get into it and they going at it hard. And then 20 minutes later, they laughing and giggling and all this F you, hell, you ain't no damn good, you know, all of that. 30 minutes later, they hugging and kissing and laughing and giggling. And she was like, what in the world? I thought they was ready to kill each other
Right.
20 minutes ago. I said, oh, no, they ain't nobody pay that no mind. They gonna be fine.
Yeah, no
Right.
grudges, no food.
You know,
Right.
and so that took her back, you know, and so our kids also observed that as well, you know. So in one regard, it gave them the ability to actually, I think, not necessarily from me and my wife, but they learn how to confront stuff,
keep it
dialogue
moving.
about it, and keep it moving and not getting your feelings and stuff like that. Because a lot of times, man, you know, these young kids, because they internalize so much, and if you don't come from that, you know, next thing you know, you just in your feelings and you sad and you don't know what to do and you start to withdraw. And that takes you into other relationships. You fall out with your mama, you just withdraw. You fall out with your lady, you just withdraw. When in actuality, if you learn how to resolve these conflicts and move on, you can have dialogue and then move forward
But
with progress.
yeah, that raises a
You need to see the
what you
the
said
positive
raises
end result.
it made me think about the importance of who you do choose to be in a relationship with though.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
we all unfortunately bring our own trauma to relationships.
Right.
And when I say trauma, I'm not giving anyone a way out because I'm not talking about all of the most drastic stuff can happen. But we all have our own issues that we grow up with, our strengths and weaknesses that we in our rearing in the community of people that we were raised in that we bring to relationships, the expectations that we bring, the habits that we bring, the perspective that we bring comes from two totally different families. Oftentimes these days, possibly on different socioeconomic levels, different geographic influences, different religious influences,
Right.
and then we come together in the name of love and think it's supposed to be perfect.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that has to happen until you meet and become one to get there based on all of that trauma and expectations. And so that's why I asked about the definition of love, because one thing I did was emphasize was, listen, man, all of this high school stuff, that's not love. So I don't ever want to hear I'm in
Romeo and
love with
Juliet,
somebody.
you ain't down with that?
They died for each other. They can call it love or lust or whatever. Look, if it stayed platonic, I'm gonna say it was love. If they had already started getting it in, it was lust.
Right.
Go
Right.
on,
Yeah.
go.
Good
But real quick, I was gonna say is you gotta know what love is. You can't use that word loosely.
Right.
Right.
So let me, love is to the point where you really willing to give up your life for this person. So don't come in here, you 14, 15, talking about are you ready to die for him? If you say love to me, that's what it means. So keep it in its perspective as you're very fond of this person. I like this person a lot. But don't allow the child to emotionally think they're in love at a premature state, because then the hurt and their navigating of the relationship becomes way more complicated. You know what I'm saying? And so I just thought that was important. But Talib, you about
I
to...
think,
go ahead.
man, I'm gonna reflect off the last little piece. You think about love and then a deep like, and then you think about young people like, did you kiss this young lady, and now you feel like there's something there, and now she might have said I love you, because we know a lot of times women come from an emotional side, and then you in return say I love you too, just because you don't want to leave her hanging, so to speak.
Hurt her feelings.
Hurt her feelings.
Make her feel rejected.
Do you feel pressured into saying love, and then y'all use it, back and forth freely, without the real intimate, like, the real, like you say, are you willing to put your life on the line, and you just use it real casually. But I wanted to say that right there. But like, for instance, like my son, I always wanted to prepare him to be the best person he could be in a relationship. I want to make sure, he know how to cook, clean, provide, make money. I want him to, so when he leave our house, he'll be equipped to be able to take on these tasks. Some of the things, like my brother said before, we not putting emphasis on love, but demonstrating that in the house. Being a prime example of what it looked like to be in a healthy relationship. And then so those things is very, very important to my family, just being able to display what's going on. So been married 27 years, and he can see, and like my brother said earlier, my wife and I, we don't get to argue. I think we've been in more arguments since we had this podcast. I love you, baby. But other than that, man, I could count on one hand how many times we argued in 5 years. Seriously, like it's nothing. Because we don't disrespect.
But when you say
them.
argue, though, I mean, when John was talking about conflict, I didn't interpret it as arguing.
We don't do none of that.
Y'all don't have
screaming,
differences of opinion.
We are
about
so.
important stuff.
Let me tell you something. We are like we could literally complete each other's sentences. We so much on one accord, and I'm saying all the time.
But okay, that's over 20 years. It was like that from day one. I can see over time. Sometimes like the
in our early
we
stage,
always agreed on everything is what I hear.
All right.
When
No,
both of y'all said
I
that's
think
not-
Joaquin
no, that-
had it when he said,
not.
they just do what I say.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
so in our earlier stage, right?
All right.
It was.
Well,
I came from the standpoint of, man, I'm not going to sleep mad at you. You
Yeah.
know, and my wife, she was like, that standpoint, she was more like, I'm going to sleep. We'll talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So then I did something very elementary, but it worked. And I was like, how can I communicate with her, get my point across without us arguing? And most of the time I realized after we won't talk to each other for 2-3 days, usually it would be 3 days, right?
That was conflict.
Right. What I realized was it was a big misunderstanding. So what I started doing, I wrote a letter to her. This is how I felt when you said this. This is how I took it when you told me this. And I wrote it to her and gave it to her. And now we're not arguing. I got my point across. I said every single thing I had to say, and I wrote a letter, and that worked for us.
Shout out to the brother for such a, seeking a climate of positivity in your marriage. That's dope.
How I know you're
think
gonna
that's
have a
really
soft spot for him writing a letter.
Hey, man, that's a
English.
writer.
I know.
I was like, I was just
You know?
thinking about because a lot of times in communication, in the passion of a conversation,
Right.
the energy is the problem, not what y'all saying.
Right. It's how you
And
say
then
it.
he just he removed the energy out of the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and but listen to you though, if you don't talk for a day, 2 or 3, that's conflict right there, right? There's tension there.
3 supposed to be the max.
Whether you
Three's
screaming,
supposed to be the max.
yeah, whether you screaming or however, it's tension, and it happens, right? Hey, what Uncle Tommy said: principal conflict is better than unprincipled peace, right? And so we got to learn it. And I can't speak for what Darius was going through. However, in my personal relationship, I grew up with all that. Watch them slick ass girls, but watch them slick ass girls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what I got? I ain't got no money. Well, all I can give them is a light skinned baby. You know what I mean? Is there value in that? Watch them.
Yeah, that's value.
Boy, hey, don't leave out with good hair.
Oh, okay.
But the other thing was, I'm gonna let you finish your point.
Oh,
But the other thing was, my wife and I was married like 5 years before Tyreek came in the picture.
Yeah.
So we
That's
earned
unique as well.
a
That's good.
gazillion of stuff
That's
out
why
before
y'all
he
ain't fighting
came.
in front of y'all.
Yeah, we
ain't
ain't-
fighting before
Already
he came.
saw.
We already saw. Yeah.
Why
Go ahead.
why you call your wife anime sometime when y'all
no.
Eat the cake, anime.
Anime?
Eat the cake.
Nah, but yeah, man. So when you hear that negativity all the time, and they don't, again, there we go when we talk in previous shows about the masculine and the feminine energy, right? All they doing is trying to protect you, right? But they don't realize they're doing more damage. They trying to protect our heart.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna get our heart broken anyway, and learn how to just move on without doing further damage to yourself or others. Once that happens, that's a part of life. But I just think it's important, man, to learn that skill. And so, like with my sons or my nephews, part of my biggest regret in my marriage, it took a while, is to learn how to. We never really got there because we got divorced. We had some phenomenal times, but sometimes
Yeah.
I'd be like,
If you
man,
could work it out, you wouldn't be divorced.
right. If we got
Right.
along, and so sometimes you like, man, I still want to model this for my kids. I still want to model this
Even
for-
after divorce.
Right.
I
How
still
can
wanna,
we do this outside of the marriage?
How have you
You
done
know, ooh, it's a challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah, it go through phases, right? It be
Sometimes
excellent,
good,
sometimes
sometimes.
yeah, and you always want to honor and respect, but you can't turn back the hands of time, And so now, with with my girlfriend, my kids ain't never seen me argue. You know, they ain't never seen no yelling going on in the house. You know, they ain't. You know,
mean your current girl?
Right. Yeah. Yep. What I said?
No, you
No,
said
you
my
said it.
girlfriend.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to model things and grow off of my mistakes, and teach them what I didn't have.
I know my mom used to. I remember one time when I was young, teenager, and to think about what kind of advice we got. And I was, puffing my chest out because I thought I knew something.
Still do.
Still do.
Yeah, I puffed my chest out, sucking in my stomach.
Okay.
So I was, I said to my mother, I said, Mom, you can't, you're a woman, you can't teach me how to be a man. I was saying it to her,
Oh.
and she remembered us too. And she said to me, she said, you know what, you right. I can't teach you how to be a man, but I can teach you how to be a man that a woman would want.
Oh.
That's what she said to me.
Checkmate.
Yeah. And so
I
it
love
was like, I want you to be the kind of man a woman would want. And so, yeah, you need to learn how to cook and clean and wash clothes and do all of that. I don't do all that stuff. I chip in a lot though.
But you know how to though.
But I know how.
Right.
I'll do the sewing at the house. I'll do the ironing at the house. You know what I mean?
Hold on, you sew?
Yeah,
I know how to sew.
You learned that Jack Jewel, Miss Perot?
What did your brother tell you?
Our grandma,
Teach
who's
you? No.
93, still around. Granny, we love you. Granny taught me and my brother how to sew and crochet
y'all ain't
and
got
knit.
no arguments at home. Y'all sewing and
She always right.
Shoot.
That's right. That's what my brother went to fashion school when he left home. Because our grandma had taught us how to sew on the sewing machine and all that stuff. So we knew how to sew and knit and crochet and all this
Hey
stuff.
man, you told me you do all the cooking right now.
Not all, but about 75%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's how
We
I
the
roll.
package deal, John.
You know,
No, like
you know
that.
why? You know why? Because my wife,
Right.
when she get home, she's running her business. So when she running her business, hey, you keep running your business. I'll do some cooking now. And so I really
Chipping
wanted
in.
my sons to see how we chip in. And no, when she sit down, it's like, thank you. As she might say, thank you for dinner. Well, you know what? No, thank you for running your business. We a team here.
Yeah.
We are a
That's
team.
how sort of
All
cooking
day.
evolved in my house. It was like, whoever got home first.
Yep.
I'm
We
home.
did that too.
You home? Start doing what we do when we get home.
I've been
Either
with my
person,
wife.
right?
I've been with my wife 30 years. I have never come home and said, "What are you cooking?" Never, not once. Never, not once.
I'm not
The
gonna
only
say that.
thing I will say is, "What would you like me to cook?" Simple as that.
You
And
haven't missed no meals.
No, I ain't missing no meals, bro. I ain't missing no
None of
They
meals.
say the cook. Don't never worry about the cooking.
I mean,
But what I always told my sons, here's what I want you to know about relationships. When you choose her, you are choosing not just her, but you're choosing her family as well.
That's
oh
a
yeah,
fact.
very
You
critical.
are choosing.
Speak.
You are choosing your children's mother. You are choosing their grandparents. You are choosing their aunts and uncles. You're choosing you're making that selection for them.
And their problems.
And their problems. That's
Correct.
exactly right.
Yeah.
You're
So-
choosing them. So you need to be very wise in your selection. Because those family problems become your marital issues. They can become as well.
Yeah, and so to reflect off that, man, my son was dating this nice young lady. You know, she was very nice, very sweet. And once we started talking to her, I understood that there was a lot of trauma that might come out in the relationship. And I was telling my son, you're not equipped to dating this young lady. You know what I mean? And he was like, Dad, I like her. I said, yeah, but let me tell you something, man. When something triggered this young lady and this thing unpacked, bro, you are not equipped for this. And I'm telling you, and I got a lot of skills, and I've been around. I'm much older than you, but I'm telling you right now, when this thing kicked off, bruh, you gonna be running. And he didn't understand that at first because he started gaining
like her.
feelings.
She cute.
He like her. They dating. They having
Some
really.
of that trauma is fun.
You
know?
They
Until
really.
you see the flip side of that trauma.
Yeah,
It's
only
Some of
when
that
you
trauma
it's
fun.
fun.
only when you're intimate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, only when you're intimate.
Yeah.
He ain't intimate, so it ain't
Right,
gonna be
right.
fun. And I was just saying those things to him, and really, to be honest with you, we had a big family discussion, and we pretty much in a sense ran her away. And I'm talking about he was grown. I mean, like he 21 years old. You
ran her
know,
off, man.
Hey man, let me.
Yeah,
This
pretty
is the
much.
thing though. If you
Ran her away.
raise your
Pretty
children
much.
right, your sons right, and you teach them all the love that y'all been modeling and talking about, they do become those that are later in their life for those that they love, right?
Mhm.
And so if they'll do that, and you got a family and some trauma that is potentially explosive, like she got a cousin that she'll go all out for. Cousin get in a situation, oh, I gotta go over my cousin's house. You gotta go.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you now in the middle of this. And then
That's right.
oftentimes you the one managing stuff because other people in the family, her family might not even be in that position. So you are in situations to that point that you didn't bargain for being in that could potentially cause you your freedom, your life,
Absolutely.
your wealth, anything. Oh no, that's my auntie. I do everything for her. She can ask me for $9,000 or
Whatever.
$900
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever, even though we ain't paid our rent yet. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
That's real
you
stuff
got
right here.
it. And this is
Yeah.
why, in traditional terms, we can frown on arranged marriages and all of that, but there's also the science of mating and choosing people that are reflective of your own values, priorities. Now, we don't judge people that are in different stations of life. For most of us, I know for me, I'm married up. I mean, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? We often do, right? And because we can't control all of that, you can't control who you fall in love with. But the ties of relationship, like Joaquin said, you marry the whole family. So you do have to be careful, man. It's
And also the same young lady told my son, and she was a lot older than him. She told him she wanted 9 kids, and I told him,
you should have started off by saying it was a cougar situation.
hey, look, I told
Did she
him.
already have a head start? Or did she have
Now
any?
she ain't. According to as far as how much we knew, she ain't had none.
Oh, okay.
That's
But
an automatic runaway,
but-
son.
But hold on,
Run.
I'm like,
9.
I got one child. We don't want 9 grandkids. Period. Point blank. I don't care what
if
y'all
that
say.
man want 9 kids, 10 kids, man? What if he? What if
I
he
just
like
said
Nick
we don't
Cannon?
want
I
9
ain't never heard
grandkids.
nobody say they want 9 kids. I mean, I'm just thinking about.
Say 1946.
Nick Cannon
Yeah.
making them babies, man.
That's Nick. I'm
Oh.
talking about what I want. I ain't got
Well,
nothing to do with nobody
so-
else.
If
so
he
he was-
taking
y'all
care
got-
of it,
y'all-
and he making money, he wants 10 kids.
John wanted 10 kids.
Okay. John had 10.
He looking, he like,
John, you stop. You better get going again.
Oprah, I'm ready.
Hey,
I want Oprah.
Hey, I
You
ain't
said- you
knocking,
said
but
you
I'm
would-
just saying.
You said y'all had some tough conversations, right? That speaks to the heartbreak part when they in love or think they're in love and they get heartbroken. What do you say when they're heartbroken?
He was
Like
heartbroken.
you can say all you
Oh,
want
yeah.
about
What did you say?
what
when
did
he
you
was
say to
heartbroken?
him though to
when
honor
y'all
the
ran
fact
her away,
that
huh?
his heart
After
is
y'all ran her
broken?
off.
His heartbroken. Yeah, he was like, Dad, you ran my friend away. I said, yes, son. I said, but you gonna appreciate it one day. You know what I mean? And they never ever got into any arguments, as far as I know, until kept on asking questions and trying to get to know her. And
So to get over my heartbreak,
Yeah.
all I get from you is, yep.
yeah,
You gonna learn one day though.
yeah, pretty
So,
much.
so how did you handle your son's first heartbreak when they came?
Yeah, man, and it was actually, when I said he had the high school girlfriend in the college, and it was one of those college breakups. I'm at one college, you at
Oh,
one
wow.
college, and they had been together, man, like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, that's a long
Wonderful sister, you know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah,
I remember.
Y'all seen her come over the years to the cookouts and stuff, right? When they broke up, man, and he told me about it, he was heartbroken and hurt, and the only thing I could say was, I understand, and it's gonna take some time for you to feel better.
Right.
and it's not the end of the world.
And what advice
And
did you
there's a
give them to
lesson.
feel better?
Ain't nothing you can do, bro. I'm just saying it's nothing. Like, only thing I can say is
What would Uncle Warkey tell?
what?
Now Uncle Walkie.
Go
Not
get
Daddy.
another one.
Daddy
What
say
would
something.
Go
Uncle
get
Mike
another
tell
one.
him?
Yeah, that's
What
Uncle
Uncle
Mike
Mike tell
tell
him?
Not
You
Walkie.
leave Uncle Mike out of this.
You know, some of the old women used to say the quickest way to get over a man is to get up under another one.
Yeah.
That's an old woman.
That's what they used to
That's
say.
funny.
Yeah.
But no, I was just like, man, it's painful. I understand.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time. You're gonna be all right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if it's meant for y'all to be together, y'all will find y'all way back to one another.
Yeah.
For me, when my son was dealing with the heartbreak, and she broke his heart, the first thing I told him was, and I was trying to be nice about it, but she did you a favor, right? She did you a favor.
There you
All
go,
right.
shitting on my choice. Right, with my
Because
heart broke.
Right.
but it was really the only way. I understand he was in pain and he was hurting, and I just wanted him to understand when I said that it had nothing really to do with her. I was really just saying, hey, your value is still there.
Yeah.
Your
yeah.
value is
Her
still there.
loss.
Yeah, it's her loss.
Yeah.
Because your value is still there. And two, it's gonna take some time. Be patient. But the
That's
biggest
what I
thing,
said.
the biggest thing I was serious about in that moment, because I know as a young man, you know, they always say young men get hurt once, and then after that, they hurt 100 women. I wanted to make
Yes,
sure
Hurt
that,
people hurt people.
yeah, I wanted
Yes.
to make sure that after he was hurt, he did not run around damaging a bunch of other young ladies.
Right.
I was big on that, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
not
That's good.
gonna, you know, he was like, man, these ain't nothing but a bunch of, you know what? Hey, we're not talking like that. We
Yes,
are
sir,
not
yeah.
talking like that. I don't want you looking at young ladies like that because you've been hurt. We're not
Right.
gonna do that. And I think that's so valuable, man, because we don't want to pass down that pain
Hurt
and that trauma.
And pass it to him,
Yeah.
and he passed it to somebody else.
Yeah,
And
he
it's-
get
Keep
hurt
dishing
one
it
time
off.
and then
Yeah.
he do it to 20, 30, 40, 50 young ladies. And now when they get spouses, they in a position to, you know, clean up the mess that he has caused.
Right.
And I think, you know, we all probably done caused some damage, unfortunately, through our youth and just our lack of understanding, you know.
Understanding, maturity.
And we don't never, you know, when I think about that, sometimes I just want to be like, I'm sorry, you know, because I didn't mean to cause damage. I was 18, I was 19, I was 20, you know, you just don't know. And I didn't want my son to do that.
Live with that regret.
Yeah, to do that
James,
to other young women.
How did you, like, if you think about your own times you've been heartbroken in your life, how did you get past
Got past the heartbreak.
it? You didn't do what we said. Everybody said.
Brother, I almost followed the principles of what you said the women do. But
I'm gonna
But
get
no,
love
as
8 different places.
But as
Yeah.
I matured though, and as and what I try to pass on to my sons is when looking for, you know, that mate or person, and what has worked for me, especially in what I've considered my truest marriage, really is currently, is what we had in common was our service spiritually, you know, with, you know, to God.
It
if
had
you
a
will.
foundation.
Right, a foundation, and the commonality was that of my seeing God in her, she seeing God in me. And then if you have a spiritual connection in that sense to God and trying to serve God, in turn you're actually serving one another. So that has worked for us. And so I try to, you know, and tell them to find that one where you see that in them, and let that be the success for your relationship, and developing a proper partnership. Some of that can be lost if you're not careful and just put too much on the spiritual piece, which should be the base. But then, of course, making sure you're communicating in the sense of developing that partnership to where you're moving in sync, like Talik has attested to with he and his wife.
And you're so
You
right
know?
with that, right? We
Mhm.
want them to have that as a teenage and early 20s, and not create a bunch of drama and children and divorce, and then be in our 30s and just come through our life experience and mature to see that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I got a good story though before we end this
Let's
thing
hear
up.
it.
I don't have no daughter, but I got little cousins I call my nieces, right? And she it's so funny because she was like, I ain't bringing nobody around you because you always question and talk about it. I'm my boyfriend. I said,
Running my boyfriend
yeah,
away.
I said, I'm not running away. I'm just meeting them, right? If they choose to stay or run,
If
I'm
my
not
presence run them away, good job.
Job done.
So at this time, remember them little studio stereo systems came out? The little bookshelf stereo system? And she was young and she was dating a guy. And I said, now she got a mother and a father. Father, they're not together, but they involved, right? Both are involved. And I was like, you gonna get that boy that speaker? She was like, nah. I said, what about that chain? You gonna give him that chain? She was like, nah, why would I do such a thing? And I was like, well, why would you give him your body? You know, do you value those things more than your body? And I just gave her something to think about. You know, she already got a active father, an active mother, right? And so we had those conversations. And fast forward, she's married with 2 kids. You know, got married, had 2 kids, and she's breaking the cycle of single parenthood on both sides of the family.
Right.
You know,
Good, nice.
And that's a beautiful thing. And the same thing, and what we don't hear is I tell my boys, I said, listen, she look good, right? But before you even stick it in her, what if she had,
I mean,
hey, before you give
wow.
me some, what if she
Enter
had,
her, engage. Other words.
I'm
you
giving
give her
it
the pep.
straight raw. What if she had your child?
Yeah.
Would you want to have a child with her?
You want her raising your daughter?
Would you want her raising your daughter? So think about that. You know, so we talk about double standards, but I tell them that because you don't want to have a child with the wrong person. You know,
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
18-year mistake, minimum lifetime mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an
And same
absolute
thing,
nightmare.
of course, for the flip side, right? With the sister, do you want? A lot of them young girls might say, "Yeah, I do want to have his baby." I don't know, but
Yeah.
is he the type of material that you would want raising your son? You know.
Yeah, no, we got to do
Love
better.
and relationships. Some guidance around that, some stories the B2M Crew has shared with you all. Once again, get your support by tuning in to us on YouTube at B2M Crew, on Twitter, B2M Crew on Instagram. Just chopping it up about these important life issues. And again, Joaquin said it best early when we got started. We didn't want to have a how-to podcast, but this is how we did it.
Right.
And we all on this journey with you all through life and just
Still learning.
trying to be a positive influence with our children still, with people that are connected to us, so that as a community, as in a people, man, we can have different experience. And I think the key thing we keep saying is breaking pathologies, man. You know, let's get back to Black love, man. It's a beautiful thing hanging in there with the families. The families are basis of community. And we got to stop being so random with relationships and not understanding, man, that is the key. And I love what Jay Moose said, man, because one of the things he said was God got to be at the center.
Yes.
And I don't care if you Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Universalist, whatever.
Right.
You know, those principles are the standard by which you can judge your performance in the relationship.
Right.
And, you know, you want to teach your children that too, because when there's a common law you following, then you don't have to say, am I right or you right?
That's your
Because
guide.
right is the law.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
that's your
saying?
guide.
So
There's a recipe, right?
but thank y'all for tuning in. Shout out to the Code Building, one of our sponsors. And Joaquin, what you got to take us out with, brother?
As always, in the words of our great leader, Frederick Douglass, it is easier to raise strong children than it is to repair broken men. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Peace.
Let's get it.
And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I finish with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. They don't want me in the office cause I tell